Hey guys, welcome back to the Fulco. Today we're going to have a quick look through a couple of the most important things from the West Ham versus Tottenham Hotspur game. Delighted to come out obviously with a 0-3, a 3-0 victory. We've really struggled going to the London Stadium over the last kind of 5-6 years. And yeah, finally to go there, decent performance and get over the line with a convincing victory is very, very pleasing. Now, I know it's not going to be to everybody's taste that, it's not all sunshine and roses in terms of the analysis, but that's what am trying to bring in terms of these videos. So, looking at things tactically, looking at them analytically, I'm looking for areas, credit where credit is due, the good stuff that we do, and then look at the areas that I want to see improvement on. And this is not criticism of the team and what was done in that particular match. So, I'm going to do it going back to the slideshow kind of way, starting here with image number one. And again, this is starting to be something that we're seeing other teams try and impose on Tottenham. And it doesn't seem to matter at the minute which midfield three we're deploying, but hopefully that's going to change and improve. But teams are looking to set quite an aggressive press against us. And at the very least, send two players up to try and steer us round onto the left hand side. So it's felt by other teams that with a right-footed left-back in Jed Spence and with Mickey van der Ven on the ball, that is the best option. So shut down Romero and his passing ability, shut down Porro and his ability to progress the ball. So cut off, lock down that right-hand side, send us down the left. That is a tactic that teams are starting to deploy against us to try and say, look, Tottenham aren't progressing the ball through the middle, and that's something we'll come on to. And if we have to choose, we want to lock off the right hand side and send them down the left. So you can see right here, the position it's actually Paquetá goes up, and the position he takes up is very, very clearly showing I'm not going to let you get an easy pass over to Romero. So if you're going to try and do that, I'm going to keep adjusting my shape and stop you from playing that ball, or at the very least, make it a high risk ball. Go to Mickey van der Ven. I'm sending you down that way, and you're going to see the midfielder who is going to arc their run, just covering off and making sure no matter what we can't, or it's difficult for Van der Ven to bounce that ball into that space in the middle for a midfielder. So he's just covering off the midfielder Polina behind him, and he's also going to arc his run round, and then we're going to see that as we move the images on. We've been sent down the left-hand side, so you can see there Romero has been cut off, and then the two forwards, the two attacking players in this instance, have sent us down the left-hand side, and they've moved really, really well to ensure that we do that. And you can also see a little bit of the midfield shape as well that West Ham are deploying to invite that on as well. So they're allowing Jed Spence to get a little bit higher, and then they're just making sure that they continue to lock off. So if another midfielder drops in, they're coming quite narrow to stop that from happening. In this instance, it's Pat Sarr. You can see Lucas Berreval just on the far side of your picture. He's the highest in the number 10 position. And then again, just making sure that there's no easy ball at this moment in time into midfield or out to the right hand side. And so we're saying, go on, Mickey, you play the ball, or knock this into Jed Spence, and we'll have him as a right footer pinned against the touchline, where he's shown from deeper positions he can struggle a little bit in terms of building up possession. Here we go again. We can see exactly the same thing, even braver this time. So West Ham have now got three players up, and this is mainly because Polina's dropped in between the centre halves to see whether he can come and collect any possession off the goalkeeper, off the centre halves. But they send up a midfielder with him, cut that off, lock off the right hand side. No options. You're going down the left, and so they've got us exactly where they want us. And in the first half, we really did struggle to produce anything with the ball from open play. So that's an area, talked about it a lot. We really do need to work on how we're going to get the ball into those central areas and who's going to be in there trying to move the ball forward and play through the lines. Or are we going to do something different, particularly in a game like this one where arguably your only hold-up player would have been Kudus on the right-hand side, where we didn't have Richarlison because he was being rested, and we were playing with Matisse Tell up front. And we had Xavi Simons on the left hand side. And again, I don't think he's a player that you're going to use as a hold up player. If we move it on here to the fourth image, is another good example of why teams want us going down that left hand side, particularly with Jed Spence as a right footer. In this particular image, we've managed to secure good possession, ball from Mickey to Jed. Moving forward, we've managed to get a midfielder in nice and close in terms of Berival coming in, and we've got a really nice setup here to cause West Ham problems. But the issue comes in, first of all, in the quality of the pass from Berival, which isn't great. So you've just had Jed Spence kind of pop a pass with the outside of his right foot in between the two West Ham players. And now he's got round the other side. So a classic wall pass here. Not great execution from Berival, but there's two things. Obviously, number one, the execution has to do a bit better. He has to put this out in front of Jed Spence. But even if he does put it out in front of Jed Spence, he will be taking this and with a view to driving inside, as opposed to taking on Kyle Walker-Peters, who's a very good defender in terms of fullback. And so, again, we will be sending players and congesting, because we've already got Xavi Simons and Matisse Tell in that area. Then Jed Spence adding another body in there. It becomes congested. We are packing that area, and that's not what you want. You want to create space, you let the ball do the work, and then get the movement off it. The second thing is Berival. Again, we've touched on this in previous games. Berival, just slow this thought process down. Yes, there's a perfect wall pass available to you, but actually, could you just punch this in to Siemens? He looks like he's got more than enough space to receive that ball, even with his back to the defenders. Or can we open out and just roll that across the front of Matisse Tell, so he can turn and open up? And I know there's not a midfielder coming and joining in on the right hand side here, but I think Matisse Tell is perfectly capable of moving across that line, and then he's got an option to try and play Kudus in either in front of the defender or slip it in to the channel behind the defender and invite Kudus to run onto it. So there's a couple of bits we could do better here, and eventually what happens is Jed Spence ends up coming back because of the quality of passes and right there, and West Ham do well. They start to squeeze it, and they manage actually to nick it back off Jed Spence and win themselves a throw. So all of those kind of bits and pieces we can do a little bit better if we are going to build down the flanks and we are going to improve what we're doing down the left-hand side. There's a few bits and pieces that we can tidy up and do a bit better. We can see here in the next image, we've got Joao Palhinha now has dropped in. We're starting to build in the first half. So we had, a fairly dull start to the half, and we're just starting to build a little bit. So to pin West Ham back, you've got Joao Palhinha coming in here. He picks up the ball, and again, he's not the best with his long range passing. He can't really play over the top, switch to play. It's not what he does. He's okay on his open side, but on his closed side, he's not great at all. And in this particular situation, you can see the box midfield. West Ham are saying, look, if you're going to drop anybody in there, we're going to snap that shut and we're going to make it very difficult for you. So we've got to be better and we've got to be braver at this moment in time. We are providing no options whatsoever. Our midfielders are really far advanced, and so we're not making late entry into this zone to at the very least start testing West Ham's resolve and move some of those players around. And what Polina, you can see from his body shape here, he's got an easy enough ball out to the right hand side, chooses not to take it, and he tries to force it. You've got Papsar making a decent kind of almost third man run here, even though it's a straight ball over the top of the midfield. There's just not the execution. So unless we change who's in that position picking up the ball and somebody that can play a pass like that, this isn't going to be successful for us in terms of moving the ball forward in more central areas. So I want to see this improve, and I want to see us being a little bit braver getting into those spaces with somebody receiving. Xavi Simons could be that player potentially, could be a player that if he's playing in the centre, or even if we want to swap and move one of our midfielders running towards that left-hand channel when Simons is playing on the left. Can he come inside and pick up the ball in that central number 10 position and try and make something happen in there? As it stands, Polinia clips it over the top. It goes a long way away from Papsar's run. It would have been a very difficult ball to drop onto his toe anyway. But yeah, it goes miles away, and West Ham pick it up very easily. Just want to quickly focus on, we could very easily have gone behind in this game. And again, things like this, when your team is struggling like West Ham are this season, they don't quite go for you. I think in another season, Paquetá actually scores the chance that West Ham had, and they go 1-0 up, and then we're on the back foot, as so often we find ourselves at the London Stadium recently. And there's just a few bits that I'd like to see tidied up here. The first bit of it is they're moving the ball. They actually win the ball. It's Kudus and Sarr over on the right-hand side. Don't quite manage to link up. They nick the ball, play it across the back and then out the right-hand side. You can see Kyle Walker-Peters on the go. Xavi Simons, he's a bit slow to react to this. Berrival comes over to cover. Polina's starting to come over to cover, and then we get all of our timings wrong. Bowen is stretching the back line, so Jed has to stay where he is. And as we move this forward, you can see that because Siemens is a bit delayed, Polina has got to make a really, really long run coming across to kind of cover Kyle Walker-Peters on the underlap. The ball goes to Bowen, and then Bowen is going to cut back inside, and he's going to feed it into midfield. And here, Berrival, he's just slightly off it in terms of getting on the right side of the midfielder. He needs to be in front of his player. He doesn't want to be on the wrong side. There's no reason for him to be, because he was already in a set position that he could have been. He's just a bit slow to react. And then it's too easy for West Ham to move the ball into that central area. They get into the penalty area. And then you've got an issue that we've seen a couple of times, which is we all come flying back, but the Tottenham players end up running a little bit too deep. So I don't want to see everybody running really, really deep into the penalty area. You want some up against the players in the box, and then you can have a deeper running player to try and get a block in there. But Mickey van der Ven's position is the one that's fine in this particular one, but you've got Papsar goes flying past, and in this particular situation, I want my midfielders running back to be engaging and stopping the players from getting any uncontested first and second contacts. Now, West Ham, I think they get 2 or 3 touches in the penalty area here, move the ball on. Paquetá is able to turn on it and should probably do better, or he should have laid it off for a shot from, it might be Crescencio on the far side. So, yeah, some bits and pieces. That dropping a little bit too deep, the coaching staff are going to work on that, and I think that's going to improve, because we've seen a lot of the work that's going into this Tottenham team is on the defensive side of things. The last thing I'll talk about is Xavi Simons and how he did in this game. Again, I've mentioned this. It's one of those where he is a central number 10, but he's used to playing off the left-hand side, and he has still got to work on his chemistry with Jed Spence or with whoever's playing left back. You can see in this particular instance, we've managed to move the ball up the right-hand side and into a central area. Siemens is exactly where he wants to be, where he likes to be. He can pull the strings here, and he plays a lovely ball. So he just puts his head down and he plays a blind pass, but unfortunately, Jed Spence is nowhere to be seen. He's not come up with this attack. So those bits and pieces will get better. They will improve themselves, and the players will start to learn, what they're expecting from each other. And this is totally to be expected in the fact that Siemens and Jed Spence will have had very, very little time training together with the international break since we signed Xavi. Continuing with Xavi, one of the things I've said is if he is going to play on the left-hand side, I want to see him keeping his runs straighter. Again, I think the coaching staff are going to work on this with him. He naturally wants to come inside. He's a right footer playing on the left. He wants to move into that central area. He wants to make things happen. He wants to be in dangerous areas trying to get shots off. But sometimes you've got to just pin your player on that line and then allow other players to run on that underlap, run into the half space, get into those channels with a bit more space. If you come in as well, you're starting to congest it. So if you are coming in, you've got to make sure that you're either underlapping or overlapping player is getting on your outside. it's your fullback, it's your midfielder in this instance, or are you coming in and linking up with the striker? So in this particular instance, Siemens receives the ball with a great opportunity to keep West Ham moving across the pitch, start bringing them as far across as possible before moving the ball inside to really break those lines. He doesn't. He immediately starts to move inside into the position that he's most comfortable with, and you'll see it here in this next image that he has now run instead of running that line. And then you can see Matisse Tel actually makes a really good run. He underlaps, but then runs and gets on the outside to provide a bit of space. Siemens comes in, but it's really congested in here, and it ends up coming to nothing. So it's one of those that, yes, we could have connected better. We could have done a little bit better when he did come inside. But again, sometimes just pin those players, keep them wider, and then allow other players, allow Berival to run a line closer to the centre of goal, and then you can come in and link up and play together. So little bits and pieces. I'm sure they're going to work on it with him when he's playing off the left-hand side. I know everybody's excited to see him play in the centre because we think there's a real player in there. And then the last thing that we'll say about Xavi Simons that I've certainly not said, and I've certainly not seen it a great deal previously, is he has now added another excellent set piece delivery to the armory of a team that is clearly going down the route of Tony Pulis FC, but doing it really, really well. And, there's no issue whatsoever with Tottenham being really, really good at set pieces because it's adding a load of goals that previously we might have left on the table. So lovely to see him get an assist here. This is an absolutely wonderful rainbow of a delivery in from the right-hand side. And this is the image that everybody would have seen on social media of all the players running away, pointing to the bench, pointing to, I think it's Georgson, who's the set piece coach, who's clearly identified at half time and shown them an image. They're not defending their back post. They're so focused on our big players that they're leaving the back post unguarded. And he doesn't even move into this position. He just stands there. He doesn't have to do anything. He stands there, but it is a wonderful header. Really, really good ball in. Lovely to see Simmons get an assist in his first game. Lovely to see that we've got yet another set piece taker with quality, and lovely for Papsar. Really, really powerful header, and he does brilliantly with a dropping football not to get underneath it. So he really powers it, gets his neck muscles behind it, hits it flat, and it goes flying in. Defender can do nothing about it. He's already in his own goal by the time he gets a touch. So, yeah, really, really nice to see. And delighted for him in that respect. So well done. Good start, positive start. We should probably have been, despite not, really having played brilliantly, we should probably have been 2-0 up, or at least had a goal and a penalty attempt in the first half. And then in the second half, great to get the goal, break the deadlock. And then once they went down to 10 men, it was fairly plain sailing and, in fact, a bit dull. And I would have liked a little bit more attacking verve later on in that game than we necessarily showed. But lovely ball, brilliant ball from Romero, and a lovely header from Beribal. Really pleased to see him moving higher up the pitch and getting involved in the penalty area. He did really well. And not only did he get himself a goal from a well-timed kind of later or deep run, he then gets himself a little bit of a fortunate assist. But he's there inside the penalty area trying to make something happen, and the ball lands at the feet of Mickey van der Ven, who slots it home for the final goal. Overall, positive. This isn't a negative take on the game, coming out with a 3-0 victory away from home. And it should definitely be said, international break, players not training together, loads of injuries to players that we would probably have seen either in that first team or players being rested. So, yeah, there's loads and loads of positives. And we can move on now with a bit of confidence to the Villarreal game on Tuesday evening. It's the return of Champions League. We're all super excited. And so, as they say, the Spurs go marching on. I'll leave it there. Have a great end to your weekend, everyone. And as ever, come on, Tottenham.